What's the most NSFW thing you've experienced in a professional situation? I worked at a restaurant and one of the hostesses would talk about having anal beads in while working and how she came when she walked around the restaurant. In Brazil, we have this WhatsApp joke where they put some random video with the audio of Alexis Texas moaning very loud. Once I was on a kinda serious meeting and my boss got caught in one of those jokes. Needless to say that everyone laughed and took a 5-minute break before resuming the meeting. There was a guy and a girl, not in a relationship, that used to regularly go into the sick bay around lunchtime for 10-20 minutes. She was a bit loud. Everyone nearby knew when they were in session. Owner's son at a computer repair shop would use the test bench to look up stupid. He got the test bench infected with viruses while looking at cat porn. No people, just cats, having sex. At least he was laughing uncontrollably at it instead of furiously masturbating to it. Edit. This is now my most upvoted comment. Cat porn. Oh cute, oh cute, oh cute, oh cute. Work in the NICU. Walked in on a mom and dad snorting mom's pain pills off the medical cart. Go figure, their child was also born addicted to methadone. Immediate reporting done. I once saw a girl sit down on the floor in one of the cubicles and show everyone her clit ring. Walked in on two people having sex in the break room. They claimed they hated each other and they ended up together. I was the spot kid at a car dealership when I was 18. Moved cars around on the lot. When we got a spot, I'd clean it. A spot was the term for when one of the salesmen sold a car. I'd also clean up trade-ins and some other vehicles when I got a chance. We took in one of those big ass conversion vans on a trade. It was left in the back lot. On most slow nights, I'd grab one of the trades that was going to go back out on the lot and clean it. I was putting off cleaning this van for a while. It's a big ass can and it would take hours. So when I finally decide to clean it, I grab the keys and head to the back of the lot. Open the door. There's two of the male salesmen going at it on the itty pull-out bed, while the female sales manager watched from one of the swiveling captain's chairs. There was a ton of coke involved. I shut the door and slowly backed away. Never cleaned that van. The service manager asked why I hadn't already. Told him that, let's say Jan, said I didn't have to, and to ask her. Few days later it gets loaded up and sent to auction. Nothing was mentioned for a few days about what I saw, but it was weird in the sales office when I was around. Few days later 9/11 happened and all that was forgotten. I worked at a honey baked ham store right out of high school. Loved that job. But I remember one day during the summer when a van pulled up right by our side door entrance and a kid, around 10 years old, popped out of the van, ran into our store, and beelined into the restroom. It was a weekday afternoon and things were slow, so we didn't mind that they weren't customers and were just there to use our restroom. So a few minutes later the kid runs out of the store and we don't think anything about it. A few hours later the lady that's on that shift with me is cleaning the sales floor and restrooms for the end of the day and I'm in the back production room cleaning up and doing dishes. Suddenly I hear her screaming my name and yelling for me to hurry over to her. Lo and behold, she's at the men's restroom holding the door open with a look of utter disgust on her face. I walk up to her expecting that the kid had left a floater or something. But no, it was so much worse. There was poop everywhere. That brat had smeared his crap along almost every surface imaginable in the restroom. The mirror, the grab bars, the toilet seat, the paper towel dispenser, the walls. I spent the next 2 hours cleaning the surfaces as well as I could. Had to throw away the towels we use for cleaning the kitchen. Normally get them laundered by our service, and used the disinfectant we use in the kitchen on everything I could see in that restroom. Still makes my skin crawl thinking of that day, and it's probably the reason behind my irrational hatred of all children. I was getting a physical for school and had to take my gown off for the hernia part. That same second his phone rang and he answered it and I'm standing there butt naked while he talks on the phone for 10 minutes. First startup I worked at in the 90s, just a few of us, ran meetings by having the note taker use a sheet of paper placed over a Playboy. If the note taker started flipping through the magazine, the meeting wasn't interesting enough and was declared over. In my company we have live video in every conference room. If a meeting is scheduled between two rooms, then the live conference connects automatically and the two rooms are both on live video. Anyone in the company can schedule this. Well, we were in a meeting that ended and the next meeting connected. Turns out the people in the room for the next meeting did not know this and were in a very NSFW activity. The whole executive team watched in shock what was happening in the 100-inch screen in front of them. They still have jobs, but that will haunt them forever. When I was 19, I worked for a quick oil change place and I had a woman sit in her car and change every stitch of clothing while I stood there and wrote down her information. I was on call at the hospital one night during my residency. I get called at about 3 AM for a disturbance in a patient's room. I walk down the hall and hear some screaming and a bunch of nurses standing outside this patient's room. As I get to the door, I see the patient standing in the corner, covered in her own poop, legs bent and arm up her gown. This woman was pulling out poop from her butt and throwing it at nurses and whoever tried to get near her. I noped the hell out of there. She eventually ran out of poop and I have a phone order for some meds to put her down. I felt bad for the housekeeping crew that night. They were up to their elbows in poop. Edit. Spelling and RIP inbox. Edit 2. Well, my top comment of all time has to do with flinging poop. Thanks Reddit. Much love. Walked in on 2 people having sex on a desk after hours. I used to work at a sign shop that specialized in vehicle wraps. My co-workers were always ducking around, and one of them must have lost her bet or something. I walked around it to a bus we were wrapping, and I saw him standing on the scissor lift, applying the wrap to the bus, wearing only his work belt and shoes. Co-worker's boyfriend dropped her off at work and the 2 of them asked me if he could experience giving a guy a blowjob and offered to give me one as I was the only bisexual guy they knew. I was staying in Newport RI remodeling a house and the tenant downstairs was a very beautiful medical supply saleswoman. We had a dumpster on site and she asked me if she could throw away a few bags of trash. Sure, no biggie. My boss was stomping on the trash to make some room and a bag tore open. It was full of dildos. Dozens. He lined them up on the dumpster. A few still worked, buzzing along. We found an order form for a whole new bunch of dildos. She must have been a freak. I couldn't let her find them sitting there. 2 of us were staying on the 2nd floor while we were working there. She was a quiet girl and it obviously would have been awful. I covered them up with trash. 20 years of great spank bank material though. She was gorgeous. Nice try HR department. I'm not falling for that again. I worked at a KFC. We had a nasty ex-stripper that worked there and a horny manager. She wanted to go home early so they agreed that she could if he got to finger pop her asshole. They did it right behind the chicken warming case. I quit about a week later. I was working for an international company and we were rolling out video conferencing equipment. We had the far end system in the London office on and connected. It was like 9 PM there. For testing. The monitor was off there, but the camera wasn't. I was looking at network traffic when I heard voices. Looked up and saw an exec and his male assistant. Went about my business when my co-worker walked in and said, "Hey stupid change. Did you get what the duck?" Exec had dropped to his knees and started going at it. On our 60 inches monitor. I quickly killed the connection. And I still don't know if my side was muted or not. But if it wasn't, it was probably pretty funny with some dude getting a beach and a sudden voice coming through from nowhere. I was 50 something working in a middle school as the network computer tech and got a blowjob from a 30 something social studies teacher in her room. At her desk. During one of her planning periods. She was also the cheerleading coach. 18 years old. Job interview to be a server at Famous Dave's BBQ. I wore a strapless dress. Looked super cute. The manager was a 40 something year old guy. He ran through the job's details and answered my questions. We stood up to shake hands and seal the deal. When I shot up excitedly from my seat, radiating a big thankful smile, my feet were stepping on the front of the bottom of my dress. The dress went down to my hips and I just stood there, all perky tits in his face and whatnot. I do hotline support, so this person calls me for help and I take over his computer remotely. I realize I need a driver, so I open his browser. You know those top 9 visited websites, that's your start page in Chrome? All porn. The customer. Similar thing. Remote control his computer. He needed software installed, so I help him get the necessary dependencies. I open browser, type G for Google and see half a dozen websites that start with gang. Just kept typing. Got a bunch of Chinese customers. Half of them wants to gamble, so I bring them to the casino. The other half wants to duck, so I bring them to a brothel. Waited in the lobby, talking to a half-naked woman. Gave her 20 for her time. Worked in an office about 10 years ago. On a weekend once when we were closed. But I needed to catch up on a couple of projects. I decided to jerk off at my desk, young and horny. Finished and double wrapped the tissue for flushing on the way out. Not a minute later, a work colleague walked in. Thank duck. That was close, I thought, and told him I'm off home and I'll see him on Monday. My way out, after I was done in the toilet, I realized I had forgotten my phone, so walked back into the office to see him at his desk jerking off. Full stop. My co-worker lightly brushes my junk and slaps my ass whenever she gets the chance. I'm not interested in her, but I do like the attention. I once adjusted the feet of an A-frame ladder to account for what had to have been a 60-degree slope. The slope was a metal roof, over a balcony on the 2nd floor. I then stood on top to paint the peaks of the house on the 3rd story. If the ladder slid down the slope, I probably would have fallen 20-30 feet to ground. I put a lot of trust in those rubber feet and they did not let me down. Pun intended. Edit. ITMS paint diagram of the situation. Got walked in on while I fell towering a server in the walk-in. Somehow kept my job. I once spotted a man at work who was wearing a harness, walking around on a 20 feet tall surface without tying off. So I told him to tie off. NSFW. I work in a sport products retail. We have a golf shot simulator in order to try different clubs and balls and study the player's technique. One day a young couple starts to shoot balls. Boyfriend prepares a gesture while his girlfriend stares. So the golf club went back and impacted violently against her face, resulting in a completely disintegrated jaw. Lots and lots of blood and teeth everywhere. I will never forget the boyfriend's face after the accident, attending his fainted girlfriend. So pale and scared. Lifeless gaze. Emergencies came and took care of her very quick and went to hospital. One of WTF moments in my work time. For sure. TL. Doctor at a golf simulator in a sports store. A man accidentally destroyed girlfriend's jaw with a club. Manager I worked with often said some realistic shill things to me. Despite being a gay dude, I'm female. Made me wonder if he was hetero-curious. Another manager implied he was into bondage like heavy master-slave play while we were working together on something. Good times. A professor feeling my ass and crotch in his lab. He also tried to kiss me and kept on telling me how much he wanted to see me naked. It was as creepy as it sounds. Throwaway because we still work there. I guess it was the time my co-worker and I hooked up in the break room. Most of the company was out on a conference and the few who remained went out to lunch. I had no idea he even liked me. I had a huge crush on him. I was leaning over to get coffee and as he brushed by me I felt his crotch against my ass. I'm not usually so daring, but I thought duck it and shoved my tongue in his mouth. Surprisingly, he felt the same way. We were too nervous to go all the way, but I did get finger-banged to orgasm. I also blew him. He was just about to come when we heard our co-workers coming back from lunch. Poor guy. So yeah, most NSFW thing for me was getting fingered by my co-worker in the break room and then blowing him to almost completion. Getting a blowjob from an HP representative while working in procurement in a government job. She was pretty and gave a great blowjob, but we went with Dell. They are more reliable and have a better warranty service. Girlfriend's co-worker walked in on the boss son jacking off in the supply closet. They lock eyes and the son just goes, "Oh it." Co-worker backed out and closed the door. Son moved away. Haha. Executive at a major billion-dollar tech corporation got fired after a Vegas marketing conference. At a huge party where CEO and major officers were in attendance as well as some celebrities. He grabbed a video camera from the marketing team. He was executive. They kind of had to give it to him. And he proceeded to go into the ladies' restroom and walk along past all the stalls with the camera above the doors pointing down. He had to have been completely lit. He was gone the next day. A woman I worked with one day just came right up to me and started grinding on me because she wanted a favor and figured that was the best way to get me to comply. It wasn't. Spoiler. Not really a professional situation, but it was on the job so. But in college I was a delivery boy for Domino's and I had to run through a parking garage staircase to get to these apartments. I busted through the door to the stairwell and almost hit some high school kid getting a BJ. Didn't really want to be a buzzkill, so I just gave them a quick noisy and kept running lol. Some patient at the hospital comes out of his room wearing jeans with a boner protruding through the open zipper. The people he walked past on that floor were too in shock to say anything to the guy, so he strolls onto the elevator and heads down to the lobby. Full mast. Goes to the cafeteria. Picks out some food. Then security finally makes it to the guy while he is waiting in the checkout line. Think he got a psych consult after that. Guy from work randomly telling me about his hot cousin and how when he was around her he would have to put a pillow on himself to cover up. There are other weird things he says to me. I guess he thinks he can get away with it since I am new and 23 and he is 55, but his weird remarks sometimes get to me more than less than. My boss told my coworker, "We don't hire black people or women because they don't work as hard." No one wants to say it, but you and I know these are facts. Unrelated. He fired me and charged me $600 for a company laptop that he claims he leased me, even though at the time it was bought for me. He used words like gift and reward and I never signed any terms of use. Really just a itty guy. Edit. Forgot to mention he didn't pay me for my last week of work. I organize orgies and sex parties. I've pretty much seen it all. While I was on cash at McDonald's during a warm summer day, I had a 40-ish hot ass MILF of a customer practically flash me to see if I would give her any free. She was only wearing a bikini top and shorts and she started pulling it to the side. I was so shocked I had no response, but her GF, I'm guessing, got her to stop. It took like 5 minutes before I could think again. I was an HS at the time. Go for my final job interview at a medium-sized company with the actual CEO. Post I applied for was head of logistics, justifying the caution as I was fresh out of college. Man is a massive guy. Think the Kingpin from Marvel but with fat instead of muscle. Interview goes well. When I was about to leave, the man asked me to call the secretary. Said woman was gorgeous, but really not my type. I do so and go outside before noticing I forgot my bag with my wallet and ID inside in the man's office. I go back and knock. The director say come in without asking who it was. I enter to find him pantsless, getting a BJ from the now topless secretary. I froze and closed my eyes in panic, but he didn't. He asked casually why I came back, and I managed to respond and utter an apology. No need to, buddy, it happens. You can open your eyes and grab it. I do so and go take my bag while making sure I didn't make eye contact with either of them. As I was going back, he called me. "You know, Bug, you really were one of the best persons I've ever interviewed. Polite, professional, and smart. I think you deserve something." He points at his secretary, still busy with his junk. "Want to share?" I thanked him for his proposal, refused, and left. I'm almost happy I wasn't selected. Edit. A word.